Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. Today, it's back into Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. This is our play by email challenge against the devilish Mr. Lodrick, and it is now February 11th, 1942. We're fully 2 months into the war now. Gosh darn, has a lot happened in 2 months. Again, this is kind of the most active game I've ever been a part of, and I'm really enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun, and if you want to know how to play the Japanese side, that's why I picked Lodrick. He'll show you. He's also got his own channel up, so if you want to go check that out, you can see his side of it. I think he's also playing the historical gamer right now. Uh, I guess I wasn't enough of a challenge. This man needs two challenges. We'll see about that. We'll see about that, Lodrick. Anyway, it's February 11th. It's our setup phase. We've just watched the combat resolutions for the 9th and the 10th, and now we're going to fly around the map, check out what's going on. But first of all, let's go look at the stats. Let's go to the scoreboard, and here we go. The intelligence report will tell you the stats you need to know, kind of in a big overall, big look at things. Yesterday, he ran about double the number of sorties we did. You see today, the sortie numbers. For the campaign, of course, he's quite a bit ahead with all those bombing runs in China. We've seen those, a lot of them. Air-to-air losses. We took 14, he took 4. Now, a lot of that was in the Dutch East Indies. And again, look, I never want to minimize losing equipment, but in the Dutch East Indies, you're just going to get overwhelmed. Same with the Philippines. Now, you can get some of the planes out of the Philippines, you can get some of them out of the Dutch East Indies, but ultimately, you're going to end up losing a vast majority of that equipment. So don't take it too hard. I'm trying not to. 447 to 168 on the air-to-air losses. Destroyed on the field 0-0. I hate those. Destroyed by flak. I would like to see more, that we were destroying more of his planes by flak here, considering he is running a lot of bombing missions over units where we have a lot of flak. Operational losses 6 and 1. Operational, hey, it could be more. We could have reported one that actually didn't happen. We don't really know because of fog of war. You can see he's pulled ahead of us in this dubious category, 253 to 252. Probably not unexpected, considering he's running so many more sorties that sometimes he's going to have problems getting the planes back to the airfield. We have 875 political points. It's time to buy some stuff out. You don't really, you always want to have some left over. And now we'd be in a case if we buy out a regiment, which is about 650 points, give or take some points, we would still have over 200. So if we just, absolutely needed them for some reason, you always want to have a little left over. You never want to get to the point where you've got 0 and all of a sudden something pops up. I've been storing these up a little bit to get a regiment, another American regiment, over to Australia is where I'd like to put it. Ultimately, this game is going to come down to whether we can defend, let's call it Burma, the Rangoon Calcutta axis. If we can defend that area and if we can defend Australia. If we can do those two things, we got a fighting chance. Now, eventually, going to win the war. He's just trying to outdo the historical gains by the Japanese, and he's certainly sunk more ships at this point than the Japanese had. He's probably doing a little better in the air and a little better in China, and so we're behind. I would say certainly say now it shows major victory, but it's going to do that at this point. The Japanese are on the march for now. Japanese score 13,450. We're at 7,491. We started up about 2 to 1. Now we're down about 2 to 1 and well, a little less than 1.8 to 1 or something like that. But we'll recover eventually. We just got to hold this down as much as we can. As we get over here, Allied bases controlled 498 to 339. We got about 160 base advantage that we control. We've lost 826 aircraft points. He's lost 490. This is the big one, and this is where we've lost a lot of points that I'm not really used to losing. We're going to have to make up for it later on. 61-33 to 118. We haven't bloodied his nose like you will do against the AI. Against the AI, you can kind of chew him up for points on the ground a little bit, but he's been far more successful in China then I'd like to see. Allied ship sunk 365. We've lost 2,617 points there. That's obviously high. Now you're going to be, up there. You're going to be 250 plus probably, but 365 is high. He's surprised us a couple of times. And honestly, these 2-day turns, I'm not making excuses. I mean, ultimately, it's, that's the game we're playing, but these 2-day turns uh, have thrown me off a little bit as far as how fast carriers can move. And we've had a couple of quote unquote disasters, whether that be out by Port Blair or there was one down by Suva where we've lost several transports and big. Uh, task forces, and so that's hurt. We have no idea how many ships he's actually lost. We continue to get reports from time to time that we've hit things, but we have no idea whether they've gone down or not, and you just won't know. That's Fog of War, and I love the Fog of War in this game. The Soviets are not active. Too bad. I could use their help. We've kind of, gone over the reinforcement schedule. I do that every time. You kind of see the same ones over and over. We could probably not, spend as much time on that. The air groups, at least. Let's look at our top pilots. We still do not have an ace, which is just grinding my gears. Let's look at the ship sunk last turn. We had two 1-point ships. This is what we want to see every damn time. Near Surabaya, we had two of these AMCs. Honestly, that was really my fault. It's 2 points. That's not going to decide the game. Well, I hope it doesn't decide the game. You should probably just put these in port, but eventually you're going to, when I say that, you should put them at anchor. Once he's there, but you're going to lose these one way or another anyway. You're not going to get these AMCs out of there. So, when he takes Surabaya, eventually it's they're going to be gone anyway. So I guess now or later. And I'm not talking about the candy. Ship availability. What do we have coming in? Now we've got the Hornet in 28 days. We know that. That's exciting. Anytime you get that new carrier, you break the champagne over the bow, and all of a sudden, your spirits lift, your heart sings. We'll be getting that in the not too distant future, and we can use it. We're obviously vastly outnumbered from a carrier perspective, even if we batch them all together. He's got two major carrier task forces at this part of the game. One of them he seems to have based in at Singapore. That's the one that's run up to Colombo once. Spoiler alert, it's going to get up there again sometime soon. Actually, a little past Colombo. And then he seems to have one right around Rabaul, Port Moresby. I don't know where that's ultimately based because you're going to want to take those back to a level 7 base. Generally, with a carrier task force, you're always going to want that stationed at a level 7 base so they rearm faster. I say they, the ships within the task force, rearm faster. There's just a huge advantage once you go from a level 6 to a level 7 base, and so you're always going to kind of want him there. So I don't know really where he's got them. He could have them based out of Manila. He could have them going all the way back to the home islands. I just, we have no idea. Okay, so coming down the pike here, we've got two British battleships. We've also got some British destroyers. We've got an American light cruiser. Okay, we've got a number of subs coming in over the eastern U.S. We've also got the Trigger coming in at Mare Island. Down the way here, another British destroyer. That's great, although really we need the bigger British capital ships because ultimately those destroyers, yes, they can run escort, so we need as many of them as we can get, but they're, at the mercy of the Japanese Navy if they run into them. We're really just trying to sub hunt with those guys. This is an interesting kind of ship. This light cruiser AA, the Van Hernsburg. Is that right? Did I say Hans? No, Hemskirk. I don't know. It's hard to read on the screen a little bit. And you can see it's a light cruiser, but it's got an anti-aircraft value of 400. And you can kind of guess what those do. They provide anti-aircraft. But they're really, they're specialized ships for anti-aircraft. Another British destroyer. I like to see these tankers showing up. We need those. And then we got a bunch of short range subs for the Americans here. Not really sure what I'll do with these. Sometimes I put them over at Pearl Harbor. Now, the short range subs that we have now, I have them floating on the west coast of the U.S., just kind of looking around for any subs of his or any kind of raiders that he may send to the U.S. West Coast. But he has not been active over there at all. I mean, we've seen one sub kind of near the Panama Canal where we exit the penalty box. But that's really it. I mean, he's been out here by Pearl Harbor, so I'll probably float these out to Pearl Harbor, have them run our sub defense around, here. Eventually, we'll push them out, but for now, anyway. And you can see they carry the Mark 10 torpedo, so they're actually the best sub that we've got, a best American sub that we've got in the game right now. The Dutch subs are, better, really, but for American subs, these S class really are the best things you got. Destroyers in it, Balboa, those are really going to be going with the Hornet. And there's the Hornet that'll come into the east coast of the U.S. We'll push it through the Panama Canal and out the other side. Okay, fine. I'm not going to look through the rest of this. I think you get the idea through previous episodes. We're just going to go out and look around the map. I always like to, and I'm going to start keeping this very consistent. I always like to start up here by Abaddon and Aden. We've talked a million times about this. Aden is where you get your British troops to Karachi or to Australia. Those are the two places you go. You can also send things to Cape Town if you need to, but to do that, you got to bring them on the map here, then push them through the penalty box there, or you can have them enter and go straight down to Australia. I usually like to refuel at Diego Garcia if we can, but he's been pressuring over at Diego Garcia quite often, and so we got to be a little careful. We've lost some ships in and around Diego Garcia because of that. Abaddon, of course, is straight down to Karachi. We don't really see anything here. Um, we didn't get any alerts. Now, I can tell you he has a carrier task force out in this area. I just know that because we played ahead. And this brings up a point that you'll see really in vivid color in upcoming episodes is you have got to get float planes out on Adu, Mail, Kagala. You've got to get search, float, anything that can search, because you have got to know if he comes through this, I'll call it a strait. It's not really a strait, but it's the entrance into the Arabian Sea here. Out of the Indian Ocean proper up into the Arabian Sea, you have got to know. You can see, I mean, from the edge of the map to Cochin here, it's not that much territory to cover. We should have had a base force out here. We do have one at Adu. We've got one at Trivandrum. You could run them out of there, but really Mail, he's going to go by this way or go by this way. If he goes I don't even know that he's got enough endurance to take a carrier task fleet all the way over here until he gets some bases further west. So really, this was a mistake I made that's upcoming, is you have got to get a float plane. Well, you really would like to have Catalinas out here, right? And if we look down at Adu, I've got no search planes there, and I've got none at Mail, and I have none at Trivandrum. Now, I was relying on these Lysanders, but they do not have much of a range. If we click on the Lysanders, they only go out of 5, right? So we are blind right here, and that is a place you don't want to be blind. And again, you'll see more of that. Now, I had Catalinas over here, so I say blind. We weren't totally blind because out of Madras, we do have Catalinas that can stretch out here, but look how much territory they're operating out of. These really needed to be transferred down to probably Adu, honestly, is the place that we would want to put them. Should be able to get there. And so I hit transfer base. I find Adu. All right. It's 25 away. We can get there because it doesn't have it shows up here and it doesn't have an R. Not that you could rail it out there. That'd really be a story. But if you look, you want to make sure you've got supply out there. Adu does have a lot of supply, and we would just click on that and off it goes to Adu. And then if we're on this unit now, come down here, and now you see this search, although we would probably just run it back this way. We would do the search patterns. So we've got it on search. I don't know, probably start at 90. And then look how many planes you've got. You've got 4, so I'd probably want to take that to 130. Now, if it doesn't cover enough area, so it would cover this would have been perfect. I think we would have detected him coming through here, but he's got carriers coming through right now. We had no way to see them, at least if these planes, when they were in Madras, didn't pick that up, nothing was going to. Do we? We don't have any planes on Diego Garcia either. That was a mistake by me, and it's going to cost. You'll see. It's coming. It's not. It's not the end of the world. I'm pointing out things that can be helpful for you when you play your game. You can see all of the traffic coming in here to Karachi, and it will continue to do so. I've got a lot of anti-sub stuff that's out here because they just make the short little journey here, but you don't want the Japanese to get a sub up here and catch, a task force of tankers or something like that. That can cause a real problem. Um, all right, where else are we going to look here? Well, I guess we'll just go over to China and see what's kind of going on. I've got this unit, which is the 36th Chinese Division. I've got it going to Suyung. There's really no reason to have them back here. I mean, look, if the Japanese are all the way up here in the mountains, this is probably all fallen already. So I've sent a unit out here to establish this base that, is a prospective base. And then I've got the other units out of Pashuan that I don't need for the garrison moving down the road here. I've got a strong setup here. Wu Chao, Kuei Lin. This is Lu Chao, and then we've got Nanning. Um, I've got a whole war area group down here, and look, I love to defend this area. It's bad terrain for attacks, for one thing. I mean, now this is on a plateau, but you can see this gets very mountainous. Gosh darn it! Stop it with the pop-ups, game. It gets very mountainous in here, and if he can get to here and establish a base, all of a sudden. When I say to here, Lu Chao or Lin or even Nanning, if he can take one of these three, all of a sudden he's on the main rail line, right? So it breaks this where you're getting a lot of supply into Changsha. I say a lot. You're always low on supply in China, but at least that's where, the majority of your supply is coming through. Um, you've got to really try to hold this major rail line, but also it's the gateway to Chongqing. Now, it's very difficult, obviously, to get up into these mountains and launch attacks here, but if he can, get Kuei Yang, he can really establish himself here, get good supply up into here from the ports and otherwise, and all of a sudden your main capital is under assault. So I like to keep a strong defense here, but I started at Wu Chao, and I've actually got, what, 424 you see here that's sitting here, and I've got them all on combat mode. I do have them on replace. I could probably turn that off. It's one thing we haven't really talked about is what you turn on and off when it comes to replacements. All of the action is over here in China now. This is probably what you want to have replace and upgrade on. And these units, until they start to come under any kind of attack, or you see them advancing up this way, then maybe you turn them on so it fills out these corps or divisions or units that you have here so that they're at full strength. Now the Chinese, it takes a long time to build them up, but you have such precious resources that you kind of got to pick and choose where you're going to have it, reinforce or bring up to full TOE strength. You got to pick and choose. This is probably not the place to do it right now, and I would advise having these on no. And then we also want to have, once things get to their destination, now I don't have that at target yet. An easy way to do it if you have a lot of units here, you see Chinese base forces at target, just click on that, hit set all, and now they'll all be set at target at Kuilin. So just an easy way to do it. Flip those to combat. Just hit the flag over here so you can see all of your units. Now, one of the problems in China is always trying to line up the commands and figure out where are all the units that are under this command. So let's see what we have out here. Just out of curiosity, we've got 4th War Area. Okay, that's your major command. I always think of this like in um, War in the East too. These are like your your armies. So this would be like 17th Army. So the war area, encompasses a lot of different group armies. And you see here, group army, it's only got 3 stars. The war areas have 4 stars. So the 4 stars are the main commands that you have, and then they all report up to China Command. So this is like OKH if we're thinking of the Germans in War in the East too. That's like OKH, and then you get down here, now you kind of skip a level, like the Army group level, and kind of go to the Army level. That's how I think of it anyway. Fourth War Area, or if it's easier for you, think of this as Army Group North or something. But there's a lot of them, and so it's more like the armies, I feel like. Then you get down to the group army, which is the 3 stars. So China Command is 5 stars, War Area is 4 stars, group armies 3 stars. And these 3 stars you're going to want with their war area. So this is fourth war area. So ninth group army is in fourth war area. Then you go down to the corps, and they should be with their group armies or somewhere close. Because if you look at the command radius, the group armies only have a command radius of 1. So they're really supposed to be sitting with their cores, right? And then if you look at the war areas, they've got a command radius of 5. And so, let's say I'm just going to make up something here. We've got ninth group army. Let's say 8th group army was out here as well, and it was also part of 4th war area. You could put it anywhere within 5 hex, and it's getting hexes, and it's getting total command support from 4th war area. So anyway, this should be ninth group army, and it is. This should be ninth group army, but instead it's central reserve. Why is that? Well, anything that comes into Chongqing later on as a reinforcement is going to be tied to the China Reserve. You could, now this one you can't, but many of them you can click on here and you could change their command. I would not recommend spending political points that way. Just keep them to the China Reserve, because ultimately, if he plays well, we're going to get pushed back close to the China Reserve. And this is where it is. If we look out here, let's see, China Command, where's China Reserve? There it is. And China Reserve is also 4 stars. It's like a war area. And so it's got a command radius of 5. Obviously, that's not going to give it command out here, but you're going to spend way too many points if you try to take those China Reserve units and put them to whatever core that they're close to. Let's just look at what's going on the ground here. You can see fourth war area, fourth war area. We've got artillery and this Chinese corps that are tied to Central Reserve. Just again, I mean, you're just going to have to leave them that way. Fourth war area goes all the way back up to main command, China command, and then Chinese corps goes, ninth group army. Okay. Um, and then over here, we've got what? 35th Group Army, which is also part of 4th War Area. So that's what I was talking about. When I said earlier 8th Group, I was just making up one. Here's one that actually is directly under 4th War Area. It's sitting with the 2 corps. You can see here, 35th Group Army and 35th Group Army. That's 35th Group Army. So it's sitting right where it should be, and it's also getting additional command from 4th War Area, which is what 35th Group Army is part of. Up here, we do not have a command. 14th Chinese Corps is also Central Reserve. The artillery, Central Reserve. The base force, part of 4th War Area. So it does get command there. The only thing not in proper command then out here are the things that go back to Central Reserve. And again, you just don't want to spend the points for that. What do we have here? 16th Group Army. That is also part of 4th War Area. And then these should be part of 16th Group Army. Yep, 16th Group Army. 16th Group Army. So we've got this all, and then what is the base force? 4th War Area. It goes directly back to the higher command. So all of this is in the proper command, and that can be super confusing when you're first playing through the game as far as what to do and how to get it all organized. But that's how I like to have it organized. I have 4th War Area out in this region. They're pretty strong, but I do supplement it with some of the things that come into the Central Reserve at Chongqing. I just send them down the road. You can strap move them then. Well, I think they have to march here, and then you can rail them where you want them. We have these units out here in the southeastern part of the country where we're trying to get them back here to Hengyang. Um, I've almost given up, and I actually in future episodes I take this stack, which is a decent stack. What do we have out here? 32nd Group Army. It's part of Third War Area, which I do believe is sitting up here. No, where is Third War Area? It is out here. It starts right here originally. I think this is it. Yeah, that's it. Third War Area. So all of this stuff is part of Third War Area for the most part. You've got 10th Group Army. You've got 23rd Group Army. You've got 25th Group Army. These are all part of Third War Area and the corps underneath them. That's just how the Chinese military was set up. They do have divisions, but most of the time your ground units, the fighting ground units, not the commands, are going to be corps, which can be a little confusing if you're used to playing war in the East, let's say. Um, 70, what is this? 32nd Group Army. It's also part of Third War Area. It's out here. I think these, yep, this doesn't even have a command that's close. And then this doesn't either. This is all part of whatever's here. We're going to try to sneak this back around him and get Third War Area back up here to Hengyang. These guys I end up turning towards the coast. Why am I doing that? Well, I don't think I can get them out anyway, and I'm just trying to disrupt any kind of supply out here. We could even take them north. I mean, eventually we're probably going to lose these units, and so I just think maybe sometimes it's better to screw around with this supply. Let these guys play like partisans. Up by Changsha, we've got this is Ninth War Area is kind of the big overall command here, and you can see 27th Group Army is part of War Area, 29th Group Army is, and then most of these will be under 27th and 29th. If we look, you can see 20, here's their command, 29th, 27th, 29th. Uh, the group armies themselves go back to Ninth War Area, which is also, we can search, let's do this by type. I think it's easier. We should put the headquarters on top, but it doesn't. You can see we have a Central Reserve artillery that I've sent down here. Again, no reason to buy that out. We have the construction regiments. So the construction regiments and the base forces generally go directly back to the war area. Again, you just leave it like that. And then Ninth War Area goes to the command. All of these go either back to 27th or 29th, except this one. It goes to 20th Group Army and this division, which goes back to 1st Group Army. I'll find where those are. Look, I mean, Changsha is much more important than other places in the map. So if you have a stray corps or a stray division here, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe you want that because you need all the strength here you can get. But right now we're not really getting pressured there. So I'll look for 20th and 1st. Let's see, what do we have here? This should go to Ninth War Area, and this goes to 19th Group Army. So let's see what we already have at Hengyang. We have that's 19th Group Army, so we have one of its corps just sitting here, still in command radius, kind of backing up these two, depending on where we get the attack. Then we have 30th Group Army, which is also in the Ninth War Area. And you really, you think about how you're setting this all up, you want all of those units that are part of a war area to be in a specific part of the map. So 4th War Area, 3rd War Area, Ninth War Area. It'd be easier if it was 1, 2, 3, but that's just not the way it works. Um, yeah, so anyway, some of these could probably go elsewhere because they're not all going to be part. Let's look at the headquarters. 19th Group Army is part of Ninth War Area, so we'll probably want to keep everything in 19th here. 30th Group Army as well. So anything in 30th or in 19th, as long as it's here, it's in the proper war area. 23rd is one we haven't seen before, and then we have another first group army. So we saw the one first group army over here, we saw another one over here. I'm talking about corps within that group army. And we'll just, it takes a while to get these all sorted out and get them to the right place. I think these are both Central Reserve units. The artillery usually is, and then also this cavalry. You have a garrison requirement here at Chengte. I actually lost a couple of points because I didn't have the garrison fulfilled here. You don't want to do that. No reason to give points away. Up at Aichang, we have 6th War Area, same analysis. Um, these units out here are trapped. I'm trying to get them out one way or another. I'm trying to bundle them all up because we've got 3rd Group Army out here, 21st Group Army. We don't have a war area out here. The war area at Chang. Oh, we just talked about that. That's 6th. These guys, I'm trying like hell to get them out of here. He just keeps boxing us in. And we can't really go through Sin Yang, so I'm going to put them together. I'm going to hope he moves somewhere else eventually and try to get these out. Now, if these stacks aren't that big, they can live off the land, but you don't want to count on that, certainly, because if you're counting on living on the land, these guys are gonna get depleted. Now, this is the Loyang stack that gets bombed, just unmercifully. This is First War Area. So if you were looking, where the hell's First War Area? It was down here. All of these units we've got a Second War Area here too, Jingsha. Now, don't be confused by this. There's like First through 12th War Area, and then there are two that are named Lusu War Area and Jingsha War Area. They're the same. I mean, they're the same as the Third War Area or the Ninth War Area. Just don't be. I think the Lusu got kicked up here. There it is, Lusu War Area. This actually kind of got destroyed. It was originally right down here. This is at the start of the game. That's that headquarters. It's like impossible to get out of here. Eventually, it'll get destroyed and it'll pop. They'll reform it at Chungking. So anyway, those are the two named ones, but they operate exactly the same. Back here at Cyan, he's now taken that. At Lanchao, we've moved forces up here, including the Red Chinese Army. This is Mao Zedong. He is the general here. You can see him there. There's Mao Zedong. He's not particularly a great general. He's got good inspiration. His leadership isn't great. His land score is not great. But what are you going to do? Replace Mao Zedong? Bloodless coup. Let's try it. It would probably be actually quite bloody. But he's up here. This is just like a war area, the Red Chinese Army. Okay, so we've got that up here, and then we have the nationalist Eighth War Area. They're, considered at the same rank, right? There's always a lot of questions about the Red Chinese Army. You have this shock force out there that, historically, I think it's called the Eighth Chinese Shock Force, something like that. Eighth Route Army, that's what it's called. This traditionally, as my understanding, was part of the Red Chinese Army. You also have a few other units and a base force that goes directly back to the Red Chinese. Here it is, 15th Chinese goes directly back to the Red Chinese Army. Historically, they were in Yan'an. I pretty much always put them in Lanchao. It's really hard to hold Yan'an. You can't really do guerrilla warfare like the Chinese really did, and the Red Chinese Army just blending into the population here and whatnot. So you've got to kind of move them out. And Lanchao is worth, as I hovered over it, yeah, 300 points to Japan. So if you look at Yan'an, it's worth 20 points. Lanchao, 300 points. Well, that tells you where you should bulk up your forces. Again, as I always talk about, um, Lanchao, Cyan, now we've lost Cyan. Nanyang, we've lost Nanyang. Aicheng, okay. Changsha, down here, you can try to keep Kukong, but really it's back on the rail line here. So it's just kind of this crescent that goes around right here. That's where you try to hold your initial line once you get everything set up. All right, that's China. We're losing the Philippines one by base by base by base. Down here, he's taken Singapore down here. He has not taken Palembang yet, of course. Sibaret. He has now just jumped over to Sabang. He's going to try to bang, bang, Sabang. He's going to try to take that. He's taken Bengkalis. So now he is into Sumatra. He's taken all of Malaysia. He's into Sumatra. And Palembang is the jewel out here, right? That's the treasure. It's got all that fuel, all that oil that's in this area, all the refineries. You want to try to make him bomb those refineries. And let's just click on Palembang really quickly. And if I can get to it, let's get to the industry here. When he's, well, I've already turned them off. But, if he starts bombing out here, don't forget to turn repair off on the industry. Why is that? Well, you want him to bomb the crud out of the refineries and the oil out here and the resources, but really, I mean, look at that refinery capacity and the oil capacity. You want him to bomb those and destroy them. And you don't want to be repairing them because he's going to take them eventually. Down here in the Java Sea and around Java itself, he's not here yet, but he's on the way, believe me. There's not really a whole lot you can do here. Someone made a good comment in the comments and said, put all your forces up here on the mountaintop in Banduang. That certainly has its merits. I haven't done that yet, but it's certainly not a bad idea. He started to expand here in Celebes. He's now taken a couple of these bases back here. He's landed out here by Monado. He'll soon take that. We've held him off at Ambon, which is good. It's just slowing him up. There are lots of little bases here, and then Koapang is kind of usually the last one standing. This is where he will pressure Darwin. We have got a lot of aircraft here at Darwin that I got out of Singapore. You can see we've got 18 Buffaloes. These came out of Singapore. You can see they're still attached to 224 Group RAF. Which was originally in Singapore. We tried to get it out. I think that transport got destroyed. Whoops. But it does reform eventually. It hasn't yet. Um, but anyway, 224, I've got all of these buffaloes down here. It was nice to get those out because now we have a nice cap over Darwin. At the start of the game, try to get as much supply to Darwin as you can because after a while, it's hard to get things there. I can tell you in upcoming episodes, we do get several task forces into Darwin. So the supply situation does get a lot better, but having been a little rusty, I didn't get up here to Darwin as fast as I should have. It's out here all by itself. I mean, there's no good way to get there's no good way to get supply up here because your main supply nodes, of course, are Perth, Sydney, and Brisbane to a lesser extent. That is a long ways to get up here through Japanese subs and eventually Japanese air power. So try to get as much up in there as you can. Down by Perth, we did spot a thing here or there, but he's mainly got submarines out here, it seems. Long ways to go for Japanese ships. We have seen some come down the coast. He tried to raid Perth. And actually succeeded. I think he put a task force in here at one point, but we had everything at anchor. He didn't really destroy anything, but he will have a lot of submarine activity out here and just try to pick off a ship here or there. Never forget, if you can't get into Perth, Albany is kind of a hidden gem of a port. If we hover over it, it can build into a level 8 port if you take it past its natural, which is a 5, and even a 5 is pretty good. But just build the hell out of Albany. Because it can always be a secondary port, and what you can do, things out of Cape Town, you can bring down here and then up to Albany. Because usually a Japanese player is going to be looking all in this area, and they kind of forget about Albany too. And then, you can also do Esperance, but as you can see, while it's equal to Albany now as a level 3 port, you can build Albany a lot higher. As we go around, let's see. I mean, it's all about he just landed here in Buna. All right, he's already taken Leh. He's already taken some of these little ports out here. He's now taken both of the ports in New Britain. He landed here. We've got nowhere to go with this Rabal group. We'll probably take him over here to, what could be bases. These dots, which show you this could turn into a base. they're just out here fighting a guerrilla war, right? You can see all of my submarine wolf packs that I have out here. I've got him kind of, where he may come through. I should probably actually move that one down to here. He's more likely to come down this way. The way I do that is just set a 1 hex patrol zone. So I'll just put him right there. So if he comes through here, or if he comes, so I'll put him right there. Make sure you got your max react set on 1, which is the maximum for subs. But if he comes around here, or if he tries to come through here, he's going to run into something, or at least you can put up a little bit of a fight even with Mark 14 torpedoes. But you can see I've got it if he comes through here. The landings, anything landing in Rabal, anything trying to come through here. I also have other subs on the way that I'm going to plant right in this area and right out here. Just make it as difficult as you can for him to land his, troops in Port Moresby. We've got these guys. Oh, it's not hasn't happened yet. Shoot, I'm sorry, but he's going to come across the mainland here, or yeah, across the mountains here, and we get him trapped here. Because he just didn't bring enough forces, and that's what you can do often. Now, the problem is we do not have any supply here to get into Port Moresby. We just don't have supply, and no, you can see how his bombing has degraded the airfield and the port out here, and we have no way to get it in because he's got his carriers out here, but blowing the bits out of anything that tries to get in. So again, try to get as much supply into Port Moresby and Darwin as you can from turn 1. Build that up above 20,000, 30. What's the max Port Moresby could take? The supply limit's 53,000. Try to take it to 53,000 if you can. That will allow you to sit here for a very long time. The reason we're eventually going to lose Moresby, and I can tell you, even a month from now, we have not yet, but the reason we're eventually going to lose it is supply. We just didn't have enough here at the start. And again, that's I'll put that on my shoulders. I'm a modern day Chester Nimitz, or I should be his Australian counterpart. Up and down the coast, again, I'm just trying to dump as much in as I can. I can tell you Sydney and Brisbane have a real fuel problem right now because ultimately that's what you start to run short of in Australia is fuel. You don't want that because ships that make it over here oftentimes at least need a minimal refuel to get back. We'll talk more about New Zealand next time. I think we'll talk more about these islands next time. I've now got quite a bit out to Suva. You can see I've landed quite a bit. I've got a lot of these marauders are sitting here now. Now I will spread those out. The marauders are good naval attackers. You can see I'm dumping off 1st Marine Raiders here. That'll be nice to get that force on. The Marine Raiders, this is where I send them. And you can see also the command, the air command here, 2 U.S. fighter. That has now arrived out here at Suva, so we'll have some air command there. At Pago, I've also got a lot of troops. Now, you probably don't need this many. Some of this I'm now going to take to Canton because he hasn't pressured us enough here. Some things I'm going to take to Luganville because if I was him, I would have actually headed down here first. You can really disrupt the Allies if you get down into this area first and put some planes out here to Luganville. But as it is, he's really focusing on Port Moresby, which he would take eventually anyway, probably. I mean, that's not a fait accompli, right? I mean, ultimately, the Japanese didn't do that historically. So it's not like something that has to happen. But in this game, it's more likely than I think it was historically because we can't really float 2 carriers over here and try to get in a carrier battle with them. It's not realistic because he has all of his carriers bunched together. Um, so anyway, we're going to get things out, and we do, spoiler alert, out to Luganville, Afate, build up Nomaya, get this free French group, put them over in Comac, plus a base force in Comac. You can run a big Catalina search pattern over all of this if you're into Comac. I've got planes coming into New Zealand that can then island hop wherever we want them. Um, Suva, Pago, we looked at that. I'm now building up Rarotonga because that is a base where fighters can hop from there to Pago. They can hop from Pago to Suva, Suva to Nomaya, to the Australian mainland, and back. I'm also building up Penryn for the same reason. That way, when he does eventually get down here, you're not trying to take transports into the heart of the beast. You can dump them off down here and island hop. Hell, at this point, we could dump them off at Tahiti. They could go to Rarotonga, from there to Pago. If you can get drop tanks on these things, they can go, an island hop. Another thing I'm doing is trying to get Norfolk Island, a base force out there. It does take me a while to get one out there. We just didn't have a good one available. But once you have that, then you can island hop from New Zealand up. Okay, I know I said I was going to talk about these islands. Let's very quickly go over them, and I'll just show you what I have on them. So, this is the Pearl Harbor Nexus, right? There's nothing north of Midway till you get to Alaska. So these are the islands, and I love it when a Japanese player doesn't come after them at the start, because once we can set up here, it's very unlikely he can take it if we can dump enough supply in. It always becomes a supply issue. And you can see 3552, it's not enough. And I can tell you in coming turns, I send a lot of supply up here because he doesn't really seem to be coming after Midway at all. And so what do I have up here? Well, I've got a part, the C part of an ABC division. I've got a C part of this, Warhawks up here. No, these are Airacobras. I'm sorry. I've got 8 Airacobras up here. I've got 6 dive bombers, these Dauntlesses up here, and I've got a Catalina running a massive search pattern kind of over the the northern part of the map up here, just in case he tries to fly, motor past us to the U.S. West Coast. Midway, if you can run it, one out of Midway and one out of Adak. Now, I don't have Catalinas here yet, but eventually I will, and those search patterns could touch, so you can kind of cover the northern part of the Pacific here. I've just got the 6th Marine Defense Battalion here. I am going to send another small group, something with 20 AV or something like that up here, just for more defense, and we need to get more supply up here, because to lose this is really all about a supply game. But now we could dive bomb anything that's coming in here. So I have that out at Johnston, kind of the same idea. I've got a fighter, part of a squadron dive bombers, and I've got Catalinas. These guys I have going straight forward, looking for anything moving towards Hawaii. You can see I've dropped AA out here, so I got anti-aircraft. I've got one of those Marine Defense Battalions, and I've got some engineers. You always want a base force and or engineers on all of these islands, but I'm setting them up all kind of the same way. If we move to Palmyra, guess what? Part of the fighter squadron, part of the dive bomber squadron, and Catalina's looking for anything moving this way towards the U.S. West Coast. 2 Marine Defense Battalions down here and some engineers. I'd like to get a base force there. I'm not sure why I haven't yet. Christmas, fighters, and Catalinas. Again, it's all about recon in this game. I got Marine Defense Force, a base force, and engineers here, and just part of a fighter squadron. I'll be looking to move AA out here, maybe, a smaller force. Same with Palmyra, AA, and potentially a smaller force here, Johnston, Midway. Those are those 4 islands. You got to be running Catalinas off of them. They can tell you anything headed towards to U.S. West Coast if you cover it well. So anyway, this has been Strategy Gaming Dojo. When we come back next time, we'll go back and look at the United States, see what we've got queued up, what maybe we want to buy out, what we want to send to Australia, to New Zealand, out to the islands. We'll check that out next time. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.